Okay, thanks for joining us today. Today we're going to run through our P6-Auditor tool. I'm Nicole Jardin. I'm actually joining today from Montreal, and I'll do the lead in and the close. And Sue, joining us from Wyoming, will be doing the demonstration of our new version. I think she found one or two things that are not quite working in our demo, but we'll give you at least a good idea of how the new features and the tool works. Now, let's talk about why we built this tool. So like all our tools, we build it because we needed it, usually to support a client, and then people asked us, well, we want that tool as well, so we built it into a tool. Now, the main reason we built P6-Auditor is for those clients that we're working with multiple users. There were times where things didn't quite go as expected. Okay, so managing global data is a big one. Things like the resource list, calendars, activity codes, project codes, those sorts of things. It's possible, and it happens, where someone might delete something they weren't supposed to, or move something, and that messes up other users. So managing global data in a shared environment can have some struggles, and that's why we monitor typical events like deleting, like moving, which would be an edit, like adding. Okay, so we have some clients that have integrated environments. Adding projects is happening automatically usually. So they want to see that. When did it get created? That sort of thing. We also audit usage as well as user information. So we have many clients that have a large number of licenses. They want to understand what that license usage is, who's in P6, what are they doing in P6. So we've also got that usage sort of data that you can look at in Auditor, and you can also push through P6 into another dashboard, like through P6 Reporter, that sort of idea. I'm going to skip those polls, and I'm going to just jump into explaining the technology. Okay, so the way that the technology works is we're using audit tables, which are part of P6, so you can turn them on. By default, they're not turned on, so that's something you have to turn on, and then from there we can then grab the data into P6-Auditor. Now, P6-Auditor can work up in our cloud, for example, and you can be in Oracle's P6 cloud. That can work, so it doesn't have to be right together on-premise. If your P6 is in your own servers, in your own environment, that's okay too. Auditor can be installed next to it, or it can be installed up in our cloud. Okay, so lots of different ways to deploy it, but the main takeaway is it can work regardless of the way that your P6 is set up. I think that's probably good for the lead-in. Let's just see. Yeah, I already talked about this. So we're monitoring events, users, and usage, and Sue's going to show that in detail. And it's the way that it works is you create, it's like making a layout in P6. You ask the computer for the data points that you want with filters, you control the columns, then you save that report setting, and then you can reuse it. Okay, so once you've got certain things that you know you want to look at regularly, you can get that set up like a layout in P6 and then reuse it. So that's the key takeaway there. And in terms of what's new, so there's quite a few features that we've added to this version to make it more functional, more easier to use, more functional, and better usage across the team. So Sue will touch on some of those. So we've got layouts that are saved at global, at a team, or a personal level. Before they were just personal. We've got the ability to control the columns so that you have certain columns that always stay on the screen. So that just makes it much more usable. And we've just increased the way that we can access the views just to make it much more easy, use the space on the screen better. And if I missed anything, I'm sure Sue will touch on it. Okay, so let's go ahead. I will turn it over to Sue, and she can start to do the deep dive and show us how it works and, of course, the new features. So I'm transferring it over to you, Sue.
Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen here so that we can take a look. Okay, so first of all, P6-Auditor can be connected to several different databases. My demo one is only connected to one database right now, but you can select alternate databases to actually go in and take the look at the auditing there. So you would select the database and then sign in, and it uses the APIs or web services delivered with P6 to connect. So your ID that you use for Primavera is what you would use to log in to P6-Auditor as well. So part of our new look and feel is we've kind of put some categories over here on the left-hand side. So we can look at global events, user events, resources, codes, projects, and activities. So these are all the different types of things that we can take a look at. So I'm just going to do a couple of examples of how I can, determine what happened with my data in P6. So I have discovered that this auditor EPS was moved in the last couple of days. So I kind of want to find out, who did it, what happened there. So maybe I could contact the person who moved it and find out, the reasoning behind it and see if that's legitimate or if it needs to be moved back. So first of all, I'm going to go into my EPS area here. Now, when I open that up, it's going to bring me the full list of the last 30 days in this case. What I can do is I know that it has been done in the last couple of days. So up here at the top, there are some things that I can do to kind of help me track that down. So instead of looking at the full event range, I can actually go and take a look at maybe the last 2 days. And I know that I am looking for that auditor EPS. So I can actually filter to find that particular EPS, and I can find, or actually I'm going to do a contains here instead. And I can find that EPS so that I can, kind of narrow down on that one. So once I narrow that down, I can see that I've got my auditor EPS here. And I just am interested in the EPS node. So I can actually go into this node type and turn off the rest of these types and just concentrate on my EPS. Now, I want to go and find out, where it moved and why it moved. So I need to scroll over on my columns here, but I want to be able to see my ID still in my name. So another thing I can do is I can freeze those first couple of columns so that when I do scroll over, I can see that I have my information for that line for those particular the ID and the names. So I can see that I had a parent object ID that was changed here. It used to be 31789 and now it's 31834. And these are the object IDs in the tables in the database. So what I can see here is that on, I'm just going to drag this up to the top because I can move around my my columns as I want. And I'm going to take a look and see, okay, this was moved on the 13th of June. And actually, I moved it. So it may have been a mistake. It may have been something that I didn't realize I did, that I thought I was it needed to be somewhere, and really it does not. So what I could do here is, if this were not me, I could contact whomever moved it, have a discussion with them, find out, was there a reason? Is it legitimate that it should be there or not? In this case, it was a mistake, so I can cut and paste it down where it needs to go, and make sure that I have committed my changes. And then when I go back into the auditor, when I refresh, I'll be able to see where I moved it back as well. So just a kind of a short little example of how I could track down what happened, in this case, moving an EPS. Now, another thing that I've discovered in my P6 is that I had a project that used to be there, and I'm not seeing it anymore. I've searched for it. It's not there anymore. And so I want to find out when it was deleted and when it was actually taken out, so that, again, I can find out maybe who did it, and find out why it was deleted. So I'm just going to go down to my projects area, because this is a project that I want to find. I'm going to keep my less than 2 days, because I know that it was there. And what I can do is I can come into my operation here. And when I come into my operation, I'm just going to drag that up to the front as well, so I can see it clearly. And I'm going to look for just the deleted projects. So when I look for my deleted projects, I see that I don't have a project short name or a project name. That's because it doesn't exist anymore. So I need to go a little bit further into my table to find out why or what happened with it. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to go look for my ID here, because it should tell me that I had an ID that is now blank. And so I can see that this is the project I'm looking for, that P6A BP-1. Again, I'm going to bring that up to the front so that it's a little easier for me to take a look at, and it's not dragging. There we go. And once I bring that up to the front, it's going to help me just identify what was deleted, that project that was deleted, and it takes a little while to drag it. So once I have it dragged where I want it to be, what I can do is, let's say I want to save this particular item here. I want to have a layout that shows me that what my deleted projects are, so that the next time I come in and I'm looking for a deleted project, I don't have to drag this back up to the front or anything like that. I can just apply that that definition or that layout. So I have this project short name and project name here that I don't really need on my deletions. Another thing I can do is control what I am seeing on my columns. So if I click this little filter here, I could take off my project short name and my name, and then it's going to remove that for me from my layout. So I like this. I want to keep it. I can go in and I can go to my layouts and I can save this. So when I save it, I'm just going to put deleted projects. could put some notes in here if I wanted to. And then I also have the option to save it for just myself to use. I could save it as a global layout. So anyone who uses P6 Scrubber, or excuse me, P6 Auditor, too many tools, that anyone else could use this layout as well. Or perhaps I'm part of a team that this would be applied to. There's only a certain group of people who might be using this. If I select team, it's going to give me the option to choose what team I want to put this to. And right now I don't have any teams set up, but I could choose that team, and then only the people, only the users who were part of that team could see this particular layout. So I'm just going to use it as a personal layout at this. No, I'm going to use it as a global layout, or I'm going to save it as a global layout. So then when I apply it, it's going to save this. So the next time anyone comes in and is looking for a deleted project, they can simply go in, they can choose this definition, and they can load it, and it's going to bring this this layout out there for them. Now, in addition, I'm just going to remove my filters. I can clear all filters here. In addition, I have an option up here in my options, and normally these are closed down, so you can't see them. But if I open this up, we now have the option to show custom field columns. And what these are fields or codes or UDFs, user-defined fields, that you can choose as an organization that you want to see. So I have that turned on right now. And what you can see here is that I can see that I have a project code called division, a project code called demo location, and I have a couple of user-defined fields as well that are available here. Now, I do want to bring back my project short name and my project name at this point, because I want to take a look at a particular project and see what those assignments are. So I am going to look for a particular project, and I'm going to filter for it. So I've got my filter that I can set up for my project short name, and I'm going to do an equals on this one. And I can apply that. And when I do that, I can see what those values are at that point. So again, I could freeze my first two columns. If I wanted to, I could drag some of these columns off to where I'm only seeing, or turn them off for that matter. And I could show just my project codes and my user-defined fields. Now, this is helpful for, let's say you have some reporting that needs certain values that are set. What this is going to do is it's going to track my either changes or what they are assigned to at that particular point. So I have that ability to take a look at these as overall to see, okay, so I did have maybe a division in here that needs to be set for this particular project. I can see what it is, and if it were changed, why, that it did change and what it changed to, as well as who changed it, how it was changed, things like that. Now, another option that is fairly new is that we have the ability to have a user category here. So if I open this up, right now I have set up that I have some API internals that could be changed. That's a category that a user could have. I could have a P6 internal, or I have regular. Now, in my case, regular is going to be the changes that were made within P6. So I could apply that and then just look at those those categories, that user category. So if I wanted to find out, okay, who in P6 as a regular user made changes or anything like that, and be able to take a look at that as well.
So on that note, that API internal, it could be if you've got our P6 calculator and it runs certain functions and fills in certain fields automatically. That way you know that it was not a user, a regular user, as in that case it was me, it was Nicole J who made that edit. So that really helps if you're in an integrated. We have lots of clients using it that are integrated, and we get fields added, edited from the integration. So that's another way to filter all that automatic stuff out off your screen. And the UDFs are working, Sue. Ravi said it was just a field that hadn't been set, so you can give that a try.
Okay.
And I added a team if you want to show the team saving. I added some teams now.
Okay. So I'm just going to make a few changes here. I am going to remove my project baseline, my baseline of, and my baseline type, just to tidy it up a little bit. So baseline of, baseline type, in here. There we go. Now it's a lot easier for me to see those project codes and UDFs up front. So now this is going to be used for my team. So when I save as, a team now, I can go in and I can take a look and I could assign it to a particular team. So it looks like, say I have 2 teams out here, and I'm going to put this at my admin team and save that. Now, when I go out to my layouts, now I have a smattering of different types of layouts that are available to me. I have my global layouts that have the little world icon next to it. I have my team layouts that have the 2 people to indicate a team. And then I have my individual user layouts as well. So if I wanted to go back to that deleted project layout, I could just select it and I can load it, and it's going to bring back that layout that I created earlier. Now, I also have a project in P6 that is actually, you can see, I had some codes that were assigned here, and they are no longer assigned. And I'm kind of wondering why those are no longer assigned. I know they were there. I've added some notes in to kind of indicate that. And I want to find out what happened here. If I go into my enterprise and I look at my activity codes, now I know that these were project codes, and they are there. And obviously they're there because they're showing on my layout, but they're not assigned anymore. So it kind of
disappeared, Sue.
Yeah, they did.
Just disappeared.
They just disappeared. So I might
sure
want to.
We've all heard that once in a while.
Yes, they're just gone. I don't know. So what I can do is I can go down into my what am I looking for here? My codes here. And so in my codes, I can look for my activity code types. And I can check my operation. I can see where they're updated and things like that. And I can see that that project short name is showing up. So I might want to filter for that project because that's what I'm looking for. And so I'm just going to put that missing in there as a contains and narrow it down to my project short name. So as I go over, again, I'm going to freeze some columns here. And I'm going to freeze my first 5 because that's where my account code missing is. And I'm going to go and take a look, and I can see, yeah, here they were. And here they were deleted, but then again, they were put back in. So it appears that somebody had deleted them, realized that they did it, and recreated that project code again. So what this is telling me is that, they realized what they did, but maybe didn't realize that now they aren't assigned anymore. Because we all know that if you delete a project code, it's going to take it away from an activity code in this case. It's going to take it away from all of my assignments, any project that it was assigned in. So I'm going to need to go back and reinstate those assignments on that. Now, a way that I can do that and find out what they were assigned to is I can go into my activity code. Now, this is the dictionaries that are going to be helping me out here. So again, I might want to filter on my project short name. Oh, it helps if I type correctly. Oh, and it's not coming up. So, oh, that's right. Yeah, I can filter here. So I can see where it's been inserted previously, but let's look for maybe a deletion. Okay, so here are my activity code names here. So I could take this ID and code and I could recreate what I had out there on here. What I'm going to need to do for my activities is actually go down to my activity level and show those particular projects there. And I'm not sure this is working properly, but I'm going to try it anyway. I think this was something I found yesterday. Yep, it's not showing. But once we get that corrected, I'm going to be able to look at my project short name. I'm going to be able to see the activity that it belonged to, and it will show me what that code was when I did that. So that's coming down the pike here. Again, like I said, I found that, I discovered that was not working properly as I was preparing for my demo here. Now, that's just a smattering of what we can do for the events in our P6 environment. Now, I also have the ability to take a look at some of our usage reports. So usage reports are going to tell me where data is used. And I can do that in a number of ways. So I'm going to take a look at my calendar usage. And what I have the ability to do is choose a project and or a calendar that I want to take a look at. So I want to look at this 001 and this 002 calendar. Now, when I select these, it's going to come down and it's going to show me where these two calendars are used at this point. So I can see my 001 and my 002 here. And I can see that they are used on these projects, as well as where they are used. Used on a task, used as a project default calendar, etc. It's also going to give me a count of how many they're used on. So in this case, the 001 calendar is being used on 24 tasks in my TA 2016 calendar or CAL project name. So I'm able to kind of drill down, look at each calendar, individually. Now, what this might help me with is perhaps I have a calendar that is just not being used anymore. See, I have this number 10 calendar for 7 days, 7 of 10 day or 10 hours, 7 days a week at night. It's not being used anywhere. What I might want to do is clean up my database and perhaps remove this calendar. Now it's going to show me whether the calendar is used in a, a project, a task, or in a baseline as well. Now, when you're looking in P6, it doesn't tell you when a calendar is used on a baseline. It will show you, it'll say that you can't delete the calendar, or you may need to replace the calendar when you delete it, but you don't actually know if it's a baseline that it's being used in. So this is going to be helpful in some of that cleanup stuff. So this, I can see that this one is used. However, my number 10 one is not. Now I can do that for activity code types. I can do it for the values for my activity codes, resources, roles, and user-defined fields. Now, another thing, let's say I have an activity code type that I want to take a look at, and I want to see what project it's in, or if it is in a project. So I'm going to go, and I know that I have some in here, and I'm going to go to my demo, and I'm going to look at my roll down project. And I'm going to take a look at all the activity codes within that particular project. So now I can see that in this roll down project, I have these activity codes assigned. So it's going to tell me that they are being used in this particular project. I could look at several projects. Let's say I want to look at this entire piece. Now, I know that there's more data on this particular, looking at this, and so I have this ability to show more rows also. So it's defaulted at 20 so that it'll fit on my screen. But if I wanted to bump that up and look at 100 of those, I could. And sometimes what happens is I get frozen on my scroll. And actually, no, this is doing more. So I need to add some more projects so that we can see that. Let me go down to my I can't find it, so I'm going to look, and I'm going to look at my auditor ones too. So there we go. So now I have more than 20, so I can display all those. Now, once I had these displayed, let's say I wanted to analyze this or give a report to someone to show that these are assigned. I can actually export this into Excel so that I could maybe, do some, I don't know, sorting. Well, I could do sort here. Maybe I wanted to do some VLOOKUPs or something like that in here. I could do an export to Excel, and it's going to give me the values in that table so that I can work with them in Excel. So I can actually get those out of there to work with them as well. Now we also have the ability to do user reports. Now in user reports, we have a couple of options here. I can take a look at my active sessions that I have going on right now in P6. So I might want to increase the number of rows that I'm looking at, and I can see what users are active, what type of users. So let's say I just want to look at my normal my people who are logged in, my actual users that are logged in. I can remove my API internal and my P6 internal, and just look at my regular users. So now I can see, kind of who's in there, what's going on, and what's happening on my active sessions. I can also look at my license history and my license usage on this for my database. Now, I have several users in there, but not all of them are consuming a license at this point. So perhaps I would want to get my full list here and take a look at this. Now, maybe I want to sort it and see just only the users that actually have licenses at this point, but I also want to see those other users that don't down at the bottom. Now, this is going to help me out. Again, I could export this, and this is going to help me out in controlling and knowing how many licenses I have being consumed at this point from all my users in my database. So if I exported this out, I'm able to actually see, that I could do a count on this, and then make sure that I am within my licensing limits for what I have purchased from Oracle for my Primavera. Now, hand in hand with this, maybe I have users in here that have a license, but they're not using my system. They're not using Primavera. I can take a look at that by looking at my user login history. In my login history, it's going to show me, and again, I'm going to increase this a little bit. It's going to show me the last time that any one of my users has logged in. So again, maybe I want to sort this by the last 30 days login history. That way I can compare who has been logging in to who actually has a license assigned to them. So this might be a case in which I would be doing a lookup. I would export these out to Excel, both the history and the usage. And if I had a very, very long list of users, I could do a VLOOKUP to find out, in the last 30 days, who is logged in and who has a license. And those that have not logged in, I might want to check with them and find out, are you still using Primavera? Do you have that need anymore? And maybe I can free up some of my licenses for those that do actually need to use that. So that's just a kind of a quick overview of some of the things we can do and some of the ways that we can set up reports and find out about events and our usage of our data as well as our users. So have I missed anything, Nicole? I want to make sure that I was able to cover at least the highlights there.
Did you show resource assignments, Sue? Not working in our demo right now.
It's not working in our demo right now.
Okay.
The reason being that we just turned it on yesterday. It just became available yesterday, and we don't have any changes or anything that have occurred since then. So we don't have any information. So our auditing table hasn't collected anything yet.
Okay. Do you want to try making a change just so that people can see that, or do you want me to make a change?
Either way. Okay.
Why don't you try it? Make a change. Okay. So those are new ones that we added in this version. It's a matter of whether a client needed it. So we have some clients that wanted to audit the research assignments, so we got that working in this new version. So again, you turn on the audit tables, and then once you've turned on the audit tables, the data is available, and then the auditor can consume it and then display it in an organized manner. So we've done that legwork. That's really the key thing. And as Sue said, you need to make some changes. So you need to add some resource assignments, you need to edit some, you need to delete some, and then they'll start showing up. It's really what it should look like. So it's the same functions. Now we have lots of clients who use a variety of things on resource assignments, like the primary resource flag. That's one that we use for several clients for either reporting or triggering our P6 calculator to grab something on the primary resource and put it on the activity. Like a code is a key one that we use. So those are all things that will now start to show up in the auditor. So with our client who uses the primary resource, just like we have in our QA tool, it's a key function and we want to see it. We want to make sure people are using it. We want to filter for any that are empty. So you can do some of that in P6, but the potential benefit in Auditor is you just have it already and you can just look at it very quickly and you can see who did it. You don't have the ability always to see who did the last edit on a particular field, because that's the key reason why you might want to use Auditor instead of just a layout in P6. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, I did get some changes to come through. So I can see that I have my activity ID and my resource ID. I changed it from another drafting resource to this HOM drafting. And so now it's showing up in my report or in my my events as it was updated here.
Yeah, so
And
pretty much the same sort of data. All
exactly.
these are very much the same sort of data. So you control your columns, you get the fields you want at the front, you freeze however many columns you need. And we've set it up to 5, which has worked so far, I think. So if we need more, we can always modify that. And then you can have this as a saved layout. So this is a big one. If you do a lot of resourcing, then this can be a big one, a big advantage here.
Now,
So it's pretty easy to use. It's pretty consistently the same sort of methodology. And yeah, we tried to make it feel very similar to working with P6 with the layout concept. So hopefully you'll find that easy. And anyone who's got a multi-user, multi-team environment, this tool really can go a long way to helping manage a variety of things. It's not a tool you're going to use every single day necessarily, but when you need to find out who did what, this makes it so much easier. And that's exactly why we built it. For some of the clients that we support directly, we were having to figure that out, and this made it a lot easier. Now, in the next few weeks, I can't remember the exact date, we're going to do a webinar that uses the auditor to help find where things were deleted, and then we're going to show how P6 Loader will help you get those things that were deleted and recreate them in P6. Okay, so that's another thing that us folks who are administering face. Hopefully not regularly, but regularly enough that it's one of our top viewed blogs is how to get data back. So we thought rather than just have a blog, let's actually show the folks how these tools will help you do that if you're ever in that situation. So that's another one that we'll build on this particular webinar. And I just, as we can try and see, do you know the date of it yet, Sue? Maybe we didn't put on the schedule yet because we're working on it. Anyway, we'll find it. Okay.
it looks like it's June 20th.
Okay, June 20th. Okay.
And the 28th, we also have one as well.
Okay, so those would be interesting ones if you're administering and you've ever found yourself in a boat where you've got to get deleted data back. Then this will be a good one for you to attend because it'll show you auditor and loader in action, and we've got reports that go on top of these. As aspect that could be interesting is reporting on some of this. So it depends who you need to consume this data. If it's just administrators or P6, you probably don't need reports. But if we have some managers that are asking, you know, who's doing what number of updates in the schedule? How many times are they updating? So they're trying to answer questions that they're being asked by their clients. So the project managers may be saying, well, I don't feel like I'm getting all the updates I should, that sort of question. So Auditor with Power BI in those sort of scenarios can be a nice way to show the actual work being done in P6. Okay, so those are things to explore if you're being asked those sorts of questions or you want to be able to answer those sorts of questions. If you're perhaps an engineering company providing support services to a large client, for example, they might want to know that sort of data. So that could be an interesting one too. Okay, so that's where Auditor can come in handy. It will give you the information related to how many updates are taking place, things along those lines. Okay, well, why don't I don't see any additional questions right now for you to have to stay in the tool, Sue, so I can take it back and we can do a wrap up.
Okay.
Okay, good. So Sue gave us our deep dive, and so benefits, really, it's tracing down what happened, who did it, and why. You know, you can start to have that conversation about why. Now, if you had to do this manually, you can't always do it. That's really the key thing. Okay, we can do some of it with layouts, but you can't really get the timestamp in the detail that we've got. Now, Sue mentioned that she had 30 days of information, so there is a controller on the audit tables and how long you can hold on to them. For some of our clients, we're only keeping 7 days, and that's mostly because of the volume. So when you've got millions of UDFs in your database, which some of our clients do, then it can be a heck of a lot of data in the system. So you can control that. So that's something to keep in mind. Hopefully you saw that it's pretty easy to use. It is pretty easy to use. You don't need a lot of, we usually do a 1 to 2 hour just orientation session for the administrators. Or we do more of a deep dive on, okay, these are the 10 things you want to build. Let's build them in a working session. So that's usually how we do the rollout. So pretty simple. And in terms of the benefits to management, well, there's benefits to see what's going on. And as we talked about the security of what's going on, the other thing we talked about was the potential reporting that you can put out from there. So we have several large clients using this tool. We've got some that are on our hosted environment as well. So we've got a mixed bag of deployments in the Oracle Cloud, in Emerald Cloud, and then on-premise. We have all those scenarios. And we talked about sort of why they're using it. Okay, so they've got a large number of users. They have more than one super user. They have a few super users usually for each group, each team. And those super users are usually the ones that are given access to P6 Auditor. Now with Auditor, you can't modify anything. So it's less dangerous, if you will, than P6 Loader. So earlier there was a question in the question room, well, you also have usage sheets in P6 Loader. Yes, so we have overlap in these two tools. Now P6 Loader is more dangerous because it lets you fix things, okay? So it's also more beneficial in that sense because not only will it show you where a calendar was used, but it will also let you change where a calendar is used. So it's got a double duty. The auditor just shows you where the calendar was used. Okay, so it's a little different. So what's the price? So the price varies. So all of our tools vary with the order of magnitude. Okay, so it's not by user, it's by the amount of volume that you're using. So it's, I think, in the range of $1,000 for a standard license, and that would allow you to have access to 1 to 2 databases. If you need access to multiple databases, then the professional license would be more interesting, or a corporate license. So we need to understand kind of what your zone is. But that gives you a bit of an idea. And if you add on more databases, the price is cheaper per database. And that is a yearly subscription. All of our tools are yearly type subscriptions. So if you are interested in understanding what the price would be for your setup, just at the end, I'll put it now, I guess. Let us know if you want us to follow up. I just put the poll question on. If you want us to follow up and you want to understand some pricing, send us some info. You could fill this in. That will help us know how to follow up, but you could also just send us an email. And Sue, if you want to shoot your email up, I'll put it on the screen in a minute. That would help. That way we follow up appropriately. Okay, so hopefully you saw something that could be interesting. If you're administering P6 and you've got a large user group, you probably understand some of these types of challenges that we're trying to address with this tool. This is one of many tools that we've got. So if you're linked in with us, you're seeing those different webinars, and certainly go to our webinar schedule. We've got some new ones that we're working on. Later today, I've got the P6 calculator and doing costs and resource management with using P6 calculators. That could be an interesting one. We've got others coming up. Definitely look at our loader. We've got our P6 reporter engine. We've got our QA tool. We've got our updating tools, our TAPS tools. And I'm sure I'm forgetting some, but anyway, go take a peek at our website. We've got a lot of add-on tools for P6 and also for Unifier. Okay, how easy is it to implement Auditor to an existing EPPM on-prem environment? I'm interested to know the duration to implement Auditor. Current instance, 1 database, 25 users. Right, so it's quite easy. We turn on the audit tables. Okay, so if those are not turned on, we turn them on, and then Auditor is ready to go. Now, in terms of getting your layouts ready, well, that's something that we usually just do a little coaching session, and then you can go start making the layouts yourselves. So it's quite a simple deployment. It's literally less than 8 hours of our time, usually, especially for 1 database. So we can certainly give you a quote for that, just to get you going. But yeah, it's a very simple deployment. And then if there's anything you're not quite sure how to do, we would just jump on a quick working session and just coach you through it. So that's usually the way we handle it. So it's quite easy to get implemented. All right, so we've addressed the questions that I've seen. If you have any more, certainly throw them in the question room. And Sue gave you her contact. If you're in a region where it's closer to Philippines, you can also reach out to Donna Ureta. She's our regional manager there in the Philippines, so you can work those 2 angles. And most recently, we started to work with CMCS in Kuwait. So if you want to reach out that way, you can do that as well. Okay, so they're our local dealer in the Middle East. They've been working with some of our tools with some of their clients, so they're taking charge of the Middle East region for us, because the time zone is quite different and difficult from this part of the world. So that's another option. You can reach out that way. Okay, I'll stop the recording, but